Hey guys, I got a real quick review of the HDX Junior Tubing Cutter. I used this to install a dishwasher recently. It worked pretty well for a one-off use, but other than that, I think I'd stick with something a little bit beefier, a little bit nicer. This thing will cut 1/8 inch outer diameter, 5/8 inch outer diameter, and it does have a replaceable cutter wheel. Alright, so I recently installed my dishwasher, and I had to move from some solid copper tubing to flex tubing because the connection is now at the back of the dishwasher instead of the front. So, not a big deal, but I did have to do some copper tubing cutting, and this is 3/8 diameter, and I didn't want to buy expensive cutters, so I bought this little $8 or $9 mini tubing cutter. I think it's an HDX Junior or something like that. And it got the job done, but you can see it's not great for its design. This little thumb screw for tightening the cutter onto the tubing is really hard to get a grip on, and so I think I ended up doing about 2 revs for every time I tried to tighten it down. And I did this without having pliers or anything when I was doing the first cut. But I did a couple more just for the heck of it to see if it would hold up. And what I found was the more cuts you do with this thing, the more worn out your thumb gets. Because this wheel doesn't give you a bunch of leverage. The screw threads seem to be a little aggressively cut for the wheel's diameter. And I could barely get it to tighten by hand. I did 2 or 3 of these in a row just to see how long it would take. And you can see I'm having trouble getting the thumb wheel to tighten down. I had to use pliers when I did multiple ones in a row. So, the moral of the story is this thing will get the job done with 1 or 2 cuts, but if you're doing anything more than that, I would definitely spring for something nicer. But like I said, I needed to make 1 cut, and this thing worked pretty well for making 1 cut for me. Probably could have used an oscillating multi-tool or a hacksaw. I just would have had a lot more deburring to do at the end there. So this thing produces fairly clean cuts, just minimal deburring. Almost through. There we go. So I didn't count the revs. I can go back and watch this and do that, but fairly clean cuts on this. Like I said, it's just with this little screw. You can see it's got some, I think it's powder coat worn off already because I grabbed it with pliers doing my cutting. And then, of course, this doesn't have any bearings or anything on this side. It's just a flat V to center on the other side of that cutting wheel. Alright, so you can see it took anywhere from around 16 to 20 spins just about every time I make a cut with this. I've made probably half a dozen cuts with it, and it hasn't shown any signs that it's going to break. I've seen some pretty bad reviews of this thing, though, that said it broke on the first or second cut. I haven't had that issue. I also haven't had any issues with it skating around and not lining up, which I've also seen reports of online. And my suspicion is I use this on 3/8 inch diameter tubing. I think it might be a bigger issue with larger diameter tubing. If you get a little bit of a misalignment in this cutting wheel, then that can cause a threading effect instead of a cutting effect on the tube. So I didn't have any problem with that with the 3/8 inch diameter copper pipe I was cutting. I can definitely see that being an issue for the upper range with 5/8 inch. This goes from 1/8 to 5/8. So might not be a good idea for anything bigger than 3/8, but I had good results with just a few cuts on 3/8. If I was going to be doing this day in, day out, I would definitely get a different cutter than this. But for $8 or $9, I don't think you can find one cheaper than this. And it got the job done just for a one-off install that I had to do with the dishwasher. So hopefully this review was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments section below. And once again, don't forget to subscribe.